Hello, dear colleagues. Welcome to my podcast. And today I have a very special guest, Maarten Ver. What's the right way to pronounce your surname, by the way?
My name is Maarten, of Vermeulen in this
Oh,
case.
yes. So Martin is joining us from Amsterdam, and I am now in Tashkent. And the topic for today's discussion is Urban Land Institute initiatives in urban planning and how, for example, people and businesses in Central Asia can benefit from joining, from partnering with Urban Land Institute. So, hi, Martin. Can you start with, well, maybe telling us a couple of words about yourself?
Thanks a lot, Dennis, for having the opportunity to speak to you and to your colleagues in Tashkent and Central and Eastern Asia. Indeed, my name is Maarten Velmeuren. I'm Dutch by origin. I joined ULI per the 1st of December last year. In addition to my 5 years as the MD for RSCS in Europe and Russia and continent and the former Soviet states. About ULI, ULI is an organization which exists already since 1936, American by origin. And what we basically do is we provide knowledge and we develop knowledge and share knowledge on the built environment on a global scale.
Thank you very much. Actually, and who are members of ULI? Are these, for example, just business people or also municipalities and other stakeholders?
If you talk about the built environment, it's usually something that basically relates or ties in with all sorts of stakeholders. So it's not just about institutional investors, project developers, but it's also about municipalities. It's also about social housing corporations, architects, advisors, etc., etc. So we try to target a broad range of people that are all involved in the built environment.
And what about research? Because I'm always inspired by the publications of ULI. I'm watching closely website and announcements on the new insights and knowledge
Yeah,
pieces of knowledge. Me as a researcher by a region, it's especially important for me. So who is doing that research? What are
yeah,
people who are doing that?
that's a good question. On the basis of what we discuss with our members, topics pop up on that people would like to be researched further. And sometimes it's global research, sometimes it's European research, sometimes it's national research. It depends on the demand. But as soon as the question is there and more people feel like we should pay attention to it, we are going to create a project group. And it's very important to highlight that all the research that we do, although it's being sponsored by companies sometimes, it's all completely independent and very ethical. So we don't take views of people or we don't repeat views from people simply because they want us to. No, our research is independent and we just report on the facts. But like I said before, discussing with our members, discussing with our stakeholders, we find topics that are relevant to the market, again, on a global or European or national scale. And as a result of that, we start a project group and we start doing the research. And you're right, usually it's very contemporary topics. So, for example, recently we published on co living, which is an extremely interesting theme, not just in Europe, but also in the rest of the world, on how people can live together despite the fact, or actually basically by maintaining housing availability and housing affordability. Another relevant topic that we recently discussed and produced a report on with DLA Piper law firm is about the S of ESG. If you talk with lots of institutional investors on an international scale, ESG is one of the most important strategic topics for them. Uh, but the S of ESG, the S of social, is very hard for people to basically define and also to monitor and measure. Hence, we spent a report on that together with DLA Piper. And a last publication we did recently is on the future of office space. in collaboration with the Instant Group. They are a big global player on basically offices, and we discussed in this report the future of shared offices and how the office of the future is going to look like.
Thank you very much. Can you just briefly talk about the general, let's say, objectives? So, what aims and objectives ULI is pursuing?
Yeah, if you look at ULI, we try to be, well, at least we recently have had a new CEO. Um, and this new CEO, he basically says we would like to change ULI into a more of an impact organization. And this means that our focus is going to be on three mission priorities. The first one is housing availability and affordability. The second one is the decarbonization of existing real estate. And the third one is basically educating the leadership of the future. That is what we are going to focus on. But in order to be, to have impact on a global scale, you also need numbers of members. And today we are at 45,000 members worldwide, 5,000 in Europe, 2,000 in Asia, and the rest of them are in the US. And we would like to grow until 2029 to 100,000 people worldwide.
Thank you very much. You mentioned decarbonization of existing real estate. Basically,
Yeah.
for Uzbekistan and Tashkent, it's a very hot topic because decarbonization and green technologies is announced and actually is in some cases achieved on the as a strategic aim for the local by the local government. For example, there are zero duties, custom duties for electric cars. Samarkand city recently signed a deal on the purchasing of the electric buses, and now Samarkand is going to be the city with the biggest number of electric buses in the region. So there are lots of things being done on the green energy, but not much on the decarbonization of let's say existing real estate, because and that's a big issue for Uzbekistan, because a lot of properties, a lot of buildings were built, let's say, not in the best possible way. So can you elaborate a little bit about the topic, because I know that this is important for local business people.
No, it's not just a big challenge in your region, Dennis. It's also a big challenge for the rest of Europe. And what you see, which I think is not a very good development, is that institutional investors, they usually tend to sell portfolios with residential units, which are not very sustainable to other people, simply because they want to buy new stock in order to comply with new legislation. But that doesn't solve the problem, because then the problem continues to exist. If you want to decarbonize, you need to invest as an investor. But it's also the responsibility of the tenant. How do they deal with their energy, for example? So it's two ways. And what we try to do is basically try to seek the conversation, especially when it comes to commercial real estate, with the tenants as well, to see what we can jointly do in order to reduce the CO2 production of existing real estate. But it's a tough way. Having said that, in order to facilitate this and to make sure that people are going to do this, we are also working on a project in which we can calculate and value as well the impact of decarbonization on the value of real estate. So, as soon as you are able to measure the impact of decarbonization on the value of properties, you have something uh, tangible that you can use in your discussion on how to deal with this, and also on the pricing of real estate.
Thank you very much. As you are, as far as I understand, responsible for national councils, can you describe how this structure works with national councils of ULI, how they cooperate, how they work together, how people can organize national council?
Yeah, indeed, I'm responsible for the national councils across Europe, and Europe includes also your region. ULI is a membership organization, a global membership organizations, and that means that we have districts as well as national councils. In the US, we call them districts, but in Europe, we call them national councils. So every country in Europe that has a decent number of members is able to set up a national council after certain criteria have been met. And usually it starts with some people on the ground that quite like ULI and that they see there is a market for ULI. And as soon as they have a decent number of people and there is potential for growth, you can be granted the National Council status. And then you can start forming a board together with new chairs, etc., etc. So that's basically how it works. Again, ULI is a membership organization, but in order to manage, we have national councils on a national scale. And those national councils, they have executive committees chaired by a board, by a number of members. And that's how we usually organize this. But in order to become a national council, to have a chair and an executive committee, um, yeah, you need to have visibility on growth towards the future, and you have to have a decent number of people that would like to start the local national council. And that's basically how we operate across the globe.
Thank you very much. You mentioned that Central Asia is part of your region, your European region. So, are there
Yeah.
any activities currently in our region in Central Asia? Any significant national councils, any groups, any strong memberships?
No, of course, ULI also is an organization that grows step by step. Depends also on demand. The only national council that is close to your region well, that's not entirely true, but it's Poland. Of course, we used to have a national council in Russia as well, but given the current political situation, we've stopped our activities over there.
Yes, actually, I talked to people from Polish ULI, and they were kind of glad to help potential members from Central Asia to understand how things are working, to introduce them, and so on and so forth. So basically, if we look at the again at the opportunities for ULI and for people in Central Asia, what do you think would be the best approach for someone, let's say in Central Asia, working in municipality to kind of to get access to the knowledge of ULI? So what would be the
Yeah,
framework, the path?
the first step is always well to become a member. And by doing so, you get access to our research, to our webinars. You can access that in your own home, so you don't have to travel for all of that. But if you want to travel and you can afford it, you can also participate, of course, in the events that we organize across the globe. Next week, we are going to have the European conference, which will take place in Madrid. Over 800 people from across Europe, but also from Asia and the US, are coming to Madrid to discuss all the developments related to the built environment on a 5-day conference in Madrid organized by ULI. But that is an exception. From what I see, you can already benefit a lot from ULI by just becoming a member, getting access to the research that we do, getting the magazines that we publish on a monthly basis, and the webinars that we organize on specific topics.
You mentioned becoming a member. Can you just briefly tell if someone wants to become a member, what steps he or she should take?
It's for me, but maybe I don't know if that is representative, but just simply type in ULI Europe, and there you will see a menu, and you can choose from the menu becoming a member, and that's how it works. And then you will see a screen, and that says what kind of member do you would like to become, and then you just tick the button, and then you need to fill out a registration form. You have to enter your credit card details, and then if everything works well, you will be processed and become a member. If there's any problems, of course, people can always give me a call or send me an email if things don't work.
Are there any restrictions on that? So you, for example, you're supposed to be top manager or whatever, or famous investor to become a ULI member, or it's open for everyone?
It's open for everyone.
I
Yeah?
know that
And
there is also additional opportunities for younger members, and so can you talk about that, because it's
yeah,
again very important for our region with almost 60% of population younger than 30 years old.
no, that's a very good point to highlight, Dennis. ULI says that there are three groups of people that we are going to focus on, or we are focusing on. The first group is people until the age of 35, which is called young leaders. Then we have the second group, which is the age group of 35 till 45, and over 45, they are senior members. The reason why we did this is because all these groups, they have different demands in terms of membership. In addition, also the pricing is different, so it's cheaper if you're a young leaders member or a next leader member instead of a full member. But second, it's also because you can talk to your peers, and we organize events especially for those groups, and that is what they quite like to a certain extent. So, for example, again in Madrid next week we have our Young Leaders Conference, which is specifically focused on this age group, and they do all sorts of activities across Europe. They do twin city approach. They have a prop tech event, all the things that they feel is important for the future, and they are organized by themselves. So again, um, of all the activities and things that we do as ULI, we try to organize specific events for certain age groups simply because they like to meet and exchange knowledge with their peers instead of with people that are elder, and also because the membership fee is cheaper than for a senior member.
As far as I know, that there are also educational programs for young leaders, for younger members. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. We are currently investigating the opportunities to make the educational programs more European, but at this moment they're only available via the US, but they are still good. But you're right, those are programs for younger people, but also for senior people, of course.
Never, regardless of where you're from, you can join this educational program.
Yeah,
Is that right? So
yeah.
basically, for younger people, what's the membership fee? To remember.
I don't know by heart. I can look it up. One sec. Uh, yeah, you have to laugh right now. I can see that. Membership
Well,
requests.
the reason I am asking, because there is a great demand for education among younger people here in this region, and there is not enough educational resources. So people are looking for ways, and to my understanding, to access educational resources with ULI is not really. It's a really good opportunity, and I remember that the membership fee is not very high. So that's the
No, no,
reason
no.
I'm asking.
You have to pay under 35, 321 euros.
That's annual membership fee.
Yeah.
And for that fee, you can access basically all educational programs, all the online resources, webinars, and so on and so forth. Right?
Yeah, in principle, yes. And sometimes you have to pay a little bit extra. It depends a little bit on the quality of the content and who is being involved. But in general, yes, this gives you access to the knowledge that we have and the webinars that we produce.
Yeah, that's right. To my understanding, I know that there is invaluable knowledge and amount of resources for that membership fee. So that's what I'm trying to convince local businesses that instead of kind of doing maybe instead of along with their own educational program for their staff, they can join these ULI programs. So you mentioned conference in Madrid. Unfortunately, I will not be able to join you there. But what other upcoming events you can mention that can be interesting for local business?
Yeah, there's many because they are also quite often organized on a national basis. So it depends on where you are and what kind of which countries are potentially of interest to you. But what I would suggest to your the people that are listening, simply visit our website, the European website, and you will find the European calendar, and that gives you access to all the events that are being organized across Europe.
Thank you very much. And the last thing I just wanted to discuss when we met this year at MIPIM, I attended one conference that was dedicated to the heat waves in Europe, and
Yeah.
I was listening to those guys talking about the heat in European cities and how to cope with that. And I thought, okay, guys, you have never been to Tashkent, where people can survive pretty. I wouldn't say very comfortably, uh, but okay with the temperatures of 45 degrees and above, because that's the infamous summer heat. And I thought at that time, I thought that potentially probably it may be a good idea to investigate because in Tashkent, for example, there are they're using lots of tools historically to cope with the heat, with all these green areas, the water resources, and so on and so forth. And one of ULI members from Poland was here last month. He visited and he looked at all these facilities, and he said that it's really potentially interesting area to investigate what things can be learned by Europeans from Tashkent. What do you think about it? Is it something of potential
Um,
interest?
for me, it's very, very clear. One of the big benefits of being a member of ULI is that you get access to knowledge on topics on a global scale. And you can learn from what is being done in other markets and regions. So when it comes to heat, yeah, we don't have much experience with heat in Europe. So we can learn from countries where they are used to this kind of heat. So if Tashkent offers solutions that can benefit countries in Europe, especially the southern Eastern Europe countries as well, yeah, why not? We are happy to learn and facilitate the knowledge that is available and give that knowledge and provide that knowledge also to markets that don't have that knowledge yet but are keen to learn more about this. So, of course, we can also learn from your region, Dennis, where you are based as we speak.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope we will soon contact you regarding new members in ULI from Central Asia, from Uzbekistan. Again, thank you very much, and see you soon.
Thanks a lot, Dennis, for having this opportunity. If there's any questions people would like to ask, please write me an email or give me a call. I'm always available, and I'm very keen to help and facilitate your people, your region, in becoming a member of ULI, and hence by doing so, basically growing the professionalism of the real estate industry worldwide. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, everyone. Please be aware that all the important details, links, and information is available in the description to this video. So so you can click links, you can contact us, and we will help you to find your path through the learning curve. Thank you very much, and see you soon.